Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the cluttered workshop of a medieval perfumer, where the air is so thick with scent you can taste the roses, and one wrong move could leave you smelling like a tanner's pit for weeks. Picture this: it's 1382 in Montpellier, France, and you're the new apprentice standing knee-deep in crushed petals, trying not to sneeze as your master explains how Arabian jasmine oil costs more than your entire village's annual harvest. That vinegar-soaked cloth around your face. Your only defense against fainting from the overwhelming aromas. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Whether you're listening from Tokyo at midnight or New York at 3 a.m., let me know in the comments. It's always fun to imagine where in the world we're collectively drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The perfumer's workshop hits your nose before your eyes adjust to the dim candlelight. Three distinct layers assault your senses: the bright slap of citrus peels fermenting in clay pots, the earthy funk of orris root powder, and beneath it all, the warm animalic whisper of ambergris aging in oak barrels. Your master, a grizzled Venetian with permanently stained fingers, shoves a mortar into your hands containing what looks like purple gravel. Crush the lavender, he says, but not too fine, unless you want it smelling like your grandmother's linens. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers knew they were creating the first chemical weapons when they worked with civet paste. But here's a fringe detail: some manuscripts suggest apprentices wore lead amulets to ward off scent demons, believed to ruin delicate formulations. As you grind the lavender, you notice the workshop cat, one-eyed and smug, refuses to enter the storeroom where the valerian root hangs. Smart creature. Your first real test comes at dawn in the marketplace, where merchants hawk ingredients that could make or ruin your career. The spice trader's stall looks innocent enough, until you notice the armed guards flanking his saffron display. That tiny pile of red threads costs more than your master's entire shop, and the merchant eyes your shaking hands like you're about to commit daylight robbery. One pinch, your master had said, just enough to make the duke's wife forget her husband's mistress exists. The flower sellers are worse. Their roses arrive in baskets lined with damp linen, each petal hand-inspected for bruises. You learn quickly why Grasse became the perfume capital. Their May roses contain exactly 17 more scent molecules than the common variety. Or so the old woman claims as she charges you triple. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers actually used all the exotic ingredients they claimed. But here's the open secret: half those rare Arabian oils were just local herbs soaked in goat fat. As you haggle over bruised bergamot fruits, the cat from the workshop reappears, rubbing against a basket of questionable musk pods. You make a mental note to check your purchases very carefully later. The rosewater still is your new nemesis. This copper monstrosity dominates the workshop's back room, its serpentine tubes coiling like a drunkard's nightmare. Your master demonstrates the process with sacramental solemnity: too fast and you'll get toilet water, too slow and we'll be here till Christmas. The first batch boils over, filling the room with the scent of overcooked vegetables. The second batch crystallizes in the tubes. By the third attempt, you understand why perfumers prayed to Saint Martha, patron saint of hopeless housework. Historians still argue whether the rosewater revolution actually improved medieval hygiene. But here's an unsettling truth: many nobles just poured it over their wigs to mask the lice. Your minor victory comes when the cat finally approves a batch, after knocking over 2 failed attempts first. Ambergris Day arrives, and nothing prepares you for the reality of processing whale vomit. The lump resembles a demonic cheese wheel, its surface pockmarked from decades floating at sea. The older it is, your master croons while chiseling chunks, the sweeter it smells. This makes zero sense until the first fragment hits warm water, transforming from maritime garbage into something resembling celestial body odor. The guild regulations demand you declare all ambergris fines to the crown. Everyone conveniently forgets this rule. As you grind the gray chunks with mortar and pestle, the workshop cat abandons you for 3 days. Smart creature, historians still argue whether medieval perfumers understood ambergris's true origin. But here's the black market truth: half the ambergris in circulation was just clever blends of pine resin and lamb fat. Your master's stash, thankfully, is the real deal, as confirmed by your lingering urge to gag. Your first distillation disaster begins with such promise: fresh damask roses from Provence, their petals still dewy from dawn's harvest. By noon, the still bubbles merrily, filling the workshop with what should be the essence of spring. Then comes the ominous gurgle. The smell hits like a physical blow, somewhere between wet dog and forgotten laundry. Congratulations, your master deadpans, you've made rose-scented humiliation. The cat abandons you for 3 days. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers understood the chemistry behind their failures. But here's the comforting part: even master perfumers' logs contain entries like, Batch 23, God has forsaken us. Your second attempt succeeds only because the cat approves it first, rubbing against the receiver flask with uncharacteristic affection. Your first distillation disaster begins with such promise: fresh damask roses from Provence, their petals still dewy from dawn's harvest. By noon, the still bubbles merrily, filling the workshop with what should be the essence of spring. Then comes the ominous gurgle. The smell hits like a physical blow, somewhere between wet dog and forgotten laundry. Congratulations, your master deadpans, you've made rose-scented humiliation. The cat abandons you for 3 days. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers understood the chemistry behind their failures. But here's the comforting part: even master perfumers' logs contain entries like, Batch 23, God has forsaken us. Your second attempt succeeds only because the cat approves it first, rubbing against the receiver flask with uncharacteristic affection. Civic Collection Day requires thick gloves and stronger wine. The small jungle cat hisses from its specially designed cage as you approach with the scraping spoon. Its glandular secretions smell like Satan's outhouse, until they're diluted into the most exquisite animalic note imaginable. Think of it as the bass note in our symphony, your master explains while the cat tries to remove your fingers through the bars. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers actually kept civets or bought pre-collected paste. But here's the black market secret: half the civet in circulation came from cleverly doctored pork fat. Your master insists on the real thing, though after today's near miss with your sleeve, you're considering the pork fat option. The church's latest decree arrives smelling of incense and hypocrisy. Certain scents are now declared too provocative for holy use. Your best amber vanilla blend tops the list. They'll be wearing hair shirts scented with rosewater by Easter, your master predicts while relabeling bottles for the underground market. You spend the afternoon creating a special, chaste blend of lavender and myrrh, with just enough hidden musk to keep the bishop's wives coming back. Historians still argue whether the scent bans were about morality or money. But here's the open secret: the Pope's own perfumer continued importing Arabian oils throughout the Prohibition. As you watch a disguised nun purchase your master's rarest jasmine oil, you realize everyone plays this game. The perfumed glove craze hits like a fever dream. Suddenly every noble needs leather gloves steeped in your violet orris root blend, not to wear, but to wave dramatically during conversations. Your workshop becomes a glove stuffing factory, the air thick with the scent of lavender-infused kid leather. They claim it prevents plague, your master scoffs while stirring a vat of ambergris solution, but really it's to cover the stench of their unwashed lovers. Historians still argue whether perfumed gloves actually improved medieval hygiene. But here's the uncomfortable truth: most gloves were worn once, then resold to merchants who removed the perfume and resold them as new. The cat develops a disturbing habit of stealing half-cured gloves and hiding them in your bed. Plague season brings macabre new customers, doctors ordering protective scents for their beaked masks. Your workshop now produces vinaigrettes filled with pungent cloves, rosemary, and what you strongly suspect is placebo. The richer the client, your master observes, the more ingredients they demand. You watch a nobleman's servant pay triple for a vial containing literally the same blend as the cheaper version, just in a fancier bottle. Historians still argue whether these plague scents provided any real protection. But here's the grim reality: your master's logbook shows sales spiked whenever death carts appeared in a neighborhood. The cat starts avoiding certain clients, a better diagnostic tool than any physician's urine flask. The king's perfumer arrives with demands that defy physics. His Majesty wants a scent that evokes conquered lands, but also makes my mistress forget her husband. You spend weeks blending sandalwood with rare oud before realizing the brief is impossible. The solution? A base of plain almond oil with just enough exotic ingredients to justify the outrageous price. The secret, your master confides, is telling him we use dragon's blood resin from the Orient. Historians still argue whether medieval royalty actually believed perfumers' extravagant claims. But here's the court secret: most kings couldn't distinguish rosewater from lavender water. The cat develops a taste for the almond oil, forcing you to store it on high shelves. The Arabian perfume counterfeit operation begins with good intentions. When shipments from Damascus stop arriving, your master teaches you the art of interpretive recreation. A drop of castoreum becomes rare musk from Samarkand. Local pine resin with a touch of honey transforms into Persian amber. The real trick? Aging your fakes in cedar boxes with a single genuine ingredient to absorb its aura. Historians still argue how often medieval merchants fell for these counterfeits. But here's the uncomfortable truth: your master's log shows the same noble families buying both real and fake versions, possibly for different wives. The cat refuses to enter the special blending room, which tells you everything. The physician's order for plague-preventing perfume comes with absurd specifications, equal parts protective and fashionable. You create a laughably complex blend of 37 ingredients, knowing full well the lavender and eucalyptus are doing all the work. The more it costs, your master observes while bottling, the more they believe in it. The cat develops a habit of knocking over the useless ingredients, leaving only the effective ones standing. Historians still argue whether medieval medicinal perfumes had any real effect. But here's the tragic footnote: your master's logs show sales spiked right before major outbreaks, the wealthy's early warning system. You start noticing which clients the cat avoids, and adjust your formulas accordingly. The wedding disaster begins with such promise: a custom scent for the duke's daughter featuring rare orange blossoms. Then someone adds too much civet. Then someone else overcompensates with rose absolute. The result smells like a floral battlefield. It's distinctive: the bride's mother lies through clenched teeth. The solution? A last-minute blend of simple lavender and vanilla that miraculously pleases everyone. The cat approves, which is all that matters. Historians still argue whether medieval wedding perfumes were actually enjoyed or just endured. But here's the open secret: most noble brides washed it off before the bedding ceremony. Your master's log shows a suspicious number of emergency sales the morning after weddings. Your masterpiece emerges after months of failures, a scent that somehow captures both sunlight on stone walls and the memory of lost summers. The guild examiners nod approval as it unfolds on their test strips: top notes of bitter orange, a heart of overripe roses, and that elusive base only aging ambergris can provide. The cat rubs against the bottle, the highest compliment. As candlelight flickers on your first official perfumer's license, you realize something peculiar. Those early disasters smell like progress now. The workshop's chaotic symphony of scents has become home. Even the cat's questionable contributions feel like part of the process, and so we leave our medieval perfumer, surrounded by vials of captured memories. Perhaps some nights, when the wind carries the scent of blooming herbs, you'll catch a whisper of their craft. The roses still grow in Provence, the sea still yields its strange treasures, and somewhere between science and alchemy, the perfumer's magic endures, just a little while longer, just until, end of script. Sweet dreams. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sandals of an Egyptian scribe, where paper cuts could literally ruin your afterlife resume. Picture this: it's 1450 BCE in Thebes, and you're reporting for your first day at the House of Life with fresh reed pens and the naive belief that copying hieroglyphs will be glamorous. That optimism will last exactly until your first papyrus paper cut, which, unlike modern paper cuts, comes with the added bonus of sacred ink infections. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Whether you're listening from Cairo at midnight or Tokyo at dawn, let me know in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where in the world we're collectively drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The limestone gates of the House of Life loom before you, covered in, ironically, beautifully carved complaints from previous scribes. Your new supervisor, a grizzled man whose ink-stained fingers look permanently curled into writing position, hands you a bundle of reeds and a clay tablet that basically translates to, "Welcome to Hell." The air smells of drying papyrus, lamp oil, and the faint despair of generations of scribes who came before you. Historians still argue whether scribe schools were actually this brutal or if we're just seeing exaggerated complaints. But here's a fun fact: some medical papyri contain what might be the world's first workers' compensation claims for repetitive stress injuries. As you enter the dim hall, you notice the senior scribes all have that distinctive right shoulder slump. You'll develop it too within 6 months. Your initiation begins in the papyrus preparation room, where the Nile's gift transforms into a scribe's nightmare. The stench of rotting plant fibers hits you first, a swampy, fermented odor that clings to your linen robes. The foreman demonstrates the process with unsettling glee: soaking, pounding, pressing, and the cursed, weaving, step where the strips must overlap just so. Your first attempt produces something resembling a used fish net. "Try again," the foreman says, tossing another bundle of green stalks at your feet. By noon, your fingers are pruned and stinging from the acidic sap. Historians still argue whether papyrus makers developed resistance to this irritation or just suffered silently. But here's the secret the veterans won't tell you: even masters occasionally ruin sheets and quietly bury them in the garden. The cat watching from the corner knows, you catch it smirking. Ink-making duty proves equally cruel. The soot collector arrives with pots of lampblack from temple torches, holy black, they call it, though it's just carbon and priestly sweat. Your job: mix it with gum arabic and water until it reaches Nile at midnight blackness. Too thick and it clogs your reed pen, too thin and it bleeds like a guilty priest's confession. The real horror comes when you taste it, accidentally, then deliberately. Hunger makes fools of apprentices. Bitter. Gritty. Historians still debate whether scribes actually suffered lead poisoning from their palates. But here's an illicit truth: some added honey to make the ink flow smoother, and occasionally licked their brushes when no one was looking. The foreman's sudden appearance sends your tasting brush clattering to the floor. His sigh suggests you're not the first. Hieroglyph practice breaks your spirit one bird symbol at a time. The ibis, deceptively simple until your version resembles a drunken chicken. The vulture, 23 precise strokes that leave your wrist screaming. Your instructor inspects your work with a stylus poised to whack your knuckles. The gods see imperfections, he intones. So do the beetles who'll eventually eat your shameful attempts. Historians still argue whether scribes used grid systems or freehand their glyphs. But here's the rebellion hidden in plain sight: some tomb artists snuck caricatures of officials into sacred texts. Your own vulture glyph starts developing suspiciously familiar jowls, until the cat bats your pen away, saving you from detention in the quarries. The dreaded paper cut arrives during a royal decree transcription. One careless swipe along Papyrus's edge and your fingertip blooms crimson, right onto Pharaoh's titulary. The blood beads perfectly within the cartouche, as if the gods themselves marked his name. Panicked, you try blotting it, smearing it, finally considering eating the evidence. Historians still argue whether blood-stained documents were ritually destroyed or just quietly filed. But here's the medical papyrus secret: scribe wounds received special treatments involving honey and myrrh, not for comfort, but to prevent sacred ink from polluting the body. The physician wraps your finger while muttering about another one and sends you back to work. The cat eyes your bandage like it's a snack wrapper. Hieratic script becomes your salvation and damnation. The flowing cursive looks elegant until you try reproducing it, your strokes resembling a scorpion's death throes rather than sacred symbols. Faster, your instructor barks as you painstakingly copy tax records. The reed pen splatters ink across a debtor's name, conveniently erasing his obligations. Historians still argue whether hieratic developed for efficiency or because some scribe finally snapped at drawing perfect ibises. But here's the trade secret: every scribe develops their own shorthand symbols. Yours, a little wavy line for grain, gets adopted by colleagues until even the treasurer uses it. The cat watches approvingly from a pile of ruined practice sheets. Your writing palette becomes both tool and tormentor. The sun bakes the ink cakes into brittle discs that crumble like Pharaoh's patience. Add too much water and your ink turns to gray soup, too little and it scratches the papyrus like a vengeful scarab. The perfect consistency exists only in your instructor's imagination. Historians still debate whether scribes spat in their ink to adjust viscosity. But the temple cats know the truth: they've watched generations of scribes surreptitiously lick brushes. When your own palette dries out during an important decree, you finally understand why the senior scribes always carry small water flasks, and why those flasks sometimes smell suspiciously like beer. Beetles wage war on your archives. Despite cedar oil treatments and linen wrappings, the crunch of chitinous jaws haunts your night watch shifts. One morning you unroll a perfectly preserved scroll to find the pharaoh's name replaced by beetle-sized bite marks. The head archivist's scream brings priests running. Historians still argue whether temple cats were employed as pest control or just took the job voluntarily. But the evidence stares at you smugly. A fat tabby presents a half-eaten beetle at your feet daily. You start paying its wages in fish scraps, and miraculously, your assigned storage area remains, mostly, intact. Night writing brings new horrors. The flickering oil lamps cast dancing shadows that make hieroglyphs seem to move. Your exhausted eyes transform a simple bread loaf symbol into a grinning demon. The temple's chill seeps into your bones as you transcribe funeral texts, each word echoing uncomfortably in the empty hall. Historians still debate whether scribes hallucinated from lamp fumes or sleep deprivation. But the proof is there. In the margins of late-night documents, you find tiny doodles of sleeping scribes and annoyed cats. You add your own, a yawning owl, before the dawn light saves you from further madness. Royal commissions test your sanity. Today's task: inscribing the Pharaoh's entire titulary 500 times on temple walls. Your hand cramps by the 30th iteration. By the 100th, you're certain the cartouche is mocking you. The overseer checks each one. Rejections mean starting the count over. Historians still argue whether this was punishment or honor. But the veterans show you their trick, slightly angling the sun glyph in each cartouche to create hidden patterns. Yours form a wavy line that, at just the right angle, resembles a sleeping scribe. The cat approves with a slow blink. Scribe rivalries turn vicious. Your nemesis, accidentally, bumps your elbow during important documents. You retaliate by switching his good reed pens with dried-out ones. The war escalates until both of you are assigned to copy the same endless tax records. At the same table, historians debate whether these feuds were tolerated or encouraged. But the archives reveal the truth: generations of scribes left hidden insults in document margins. You continue the tradition by crafting a particularly clever one, your rival's name glyph with donkey ears. The cat watches your childish revenge with obvious disdain. Medical treatments bring new pains. The physician's soothing hand salve burns like Apophis' venom. His cure for eye strain involves ground lapis lazuli that turns your tears blue. When you develop the characteristic scribe's hunch, he prescribes stretching exercises that would embarrass a temple dancer. Historians still argue whether these remedies worked or just distracted from the pain. But the old scribes share their true relief: stolen temple wine and complaining loudly in the baths. You adopt both treatments, though the wine makes your hieratic even more creative than usual. The cat disapproves, but only until you spill some. Hidden humor keeps you sane. Between sacred texts, you discover generations of scribal jokes: a nobleman depicted with a hippo's body, a priest with exaggerated ears. Carefully, you add your own, the vizier's name glyph modified to resemble a squawking goose. Historians still debate whether these were harmless jokes or subtle protests. But the cat's reaction settles it: when you show it your masterpiece, it actually purrs. You make it official by including the cat in your next hidden doodle, as a lion judging the court. Your final act as scribe comes unexpectedly. A new apprentice stands before you, hands shaking as yours once did. As you demonstrate the proper grip, you realize your fingers no longer fully straighten, permanent badges of service. You consider warning them about the vulture glyph, but tradition demands they suffer as you did. Walking out past the complaint wall one last time, you add your mark not in ink but by tracing your crooked fingers over centuries of scribal grievances. The cat follows you to the gates, then turns back, already adopting the new apprentice, and so we leave our Egyptian scribe, their words etched in stone, their paper cuts healed, their ink-stained hands finally at rest. Perhaps when moonlit dust dances in tomb passages, those restless fingers still move, still write, still complain about that damned vulture glyph, just a little while longer, just until